So give yourselves a woo. Woo! Oh, y'all are good. But you gotta get the hands going too. So okay, will you do it again? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo!
Well, all right. Good morning. Hi, Lisa.
Good morning. Hi, Belinda.
How are you doing today?
We're doing great. The weather outside is nice. Although I hear they've got a cold front moving into the middle of the U.S.
Oh, I tell you, I think they've been pretty darn cold there in Kansas City the other day. I think it was Bill said it was like down to 29 and it had been like 70 the day before.
Kansas I think Laura can't put her coat away.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Covering those, all of her things that she has planted, right? Oh gosh, well, y'all know I am not much of a gardener or any of that. So our garden that we tried last year, we bought one of those just little standing up gardens. Okay, that was about as much as we were going to try, and totally failed at that. Just to let everybody know, the lettuce grew perfect. I mean, it grew beautifully, but it tasted terrible, bitter. So we couldn't eat it. But it looked good. So this time we decided we'd just plant wildflowers in there. So we just planted some seeds and we're getting little teeny baby little shoots. So maybe we can manage a wildflower garden. So we're going to try that.
There you go. You'll help the bees.
Yeah, I guess that's a good thing. So what about you? You have your garden going, right? So you're working on it?
Yep. No, it's growing really good. I just took a picture of my cabbage leaves and they're probably a good 2 feet across.
Oh my gosh. Well, then you have to have quite a bit of room to grow. If cabbage gets that big, then you have to have a lot of space to do that, right?
Well, in the square foot garden, they say you can grow it in a foot by foot, and it does grow in that. It's a little cramped, but and then on my potatoes, I have 4 barrels of potatoes, and they're looking great. So.
Wow. Okay, so you probably need to take a few pictures so we can see what yours looks like. So you have in barrels, huh? Separated.
I've been trying. So my garden's more experiment garden because I don't really have enough space to live off of my garden, but and between the weather and everything, it gets interesting. But I have the wicking bed. That's where you build a reservoir under the soil, and that has worked well this year because I lowered the soil level like you're supposed to, and and then the other one is with the barrels with the potatoes. They're canvas barrels, and then you put the potatoes in there and you poke holes in the bottom, and then you water underneath that on the soil. And so that makes it so that the soil underneath retains the water and keeps the drainage correct. So this, like I said, these are experiments.
Well, how else do we learn, right? We have to try things just like me in my rectangular garden trying. But yes. I love wildflowers. So if they grow, that'll be great. So who is out there with us this morning? Say a quick hello and where you are. We'd love to know who's out there with us. This Tuesday mornings, it's like, wow, the week goes so fast. I don't know about you, but it seems like it was just Tuesday a few days ago and it's already been a week. And we are coming to the end of the month. Oh my goodness. So, I was always told, my mother would always say, oh, just wait till you get older. I'd say, oh, time goes so slow. And she'd say, oh, just wait till you get older. It'll go so fast you won't know what's happening. And that is kind of true. It does see that. Okay, Kathy, I see you there. Yes, we would all love your gardening trips. Florida is in there. All right. So who are you from Florida? We cannot see your name. I can see Kathy's, but we can't see yours. If you want to tell us who you are, that would be great. I wonder in Florida, can they just grow year round? Their temperatures are so mild. Do they just grow year round? That must be really nice. Now, this is really funny, you guys. It's 7:25 on my clock, and I just got a reminder to be ready to start my live video at 7:30.
Oh, well.
something in the reminders is not off. There's a little like glitch there, so that's pretty funny. So
It's not working well.
no. Well, a couple of little announcement things before we get into our topic this morning. Reminder that we are coming really close. April 30th, which is Sunday, is the last date to get your early bird ticket for Wow the World. And I've been giving y'all tips every day. The one for today will come out later after I get off the show because I hadn't. Anyway, it's ready to go, and I just have to get it posted, so I'll do that. So we're down to the countdown, whatever that is. Say Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 days. If you count today, it's 6 days to get your ticket. And the thing is, it's just such a great savings. And not to say, you guys, we will have some discounts. There'll be some things that we're going to do, but nothing will be the price it is at this level. So this is amazing for all that we have.
This is rock bottom.
This is it. So get in and do it. And I know some of you saying, here's just my thought is that, none of us know what's going to happen in the future. And if we just keep waiting to see what's going to happen, we're going to miss out on so many opportunities. Yeah. So when you get a chance to do things, if it's something you want, now, if you just don't want to come, I can't understand why, but if you just don't want to come, that's okay. We love you anyway. So we're not doing any judgment here. But if you're just kind of in waiting mode, like, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting? I often see, because we do lunches every month, and it's kind of the same thing. I know women in general, all of us like to wait till the last minute to do something. But then when you do that, sometimes you miss out on other things. So just think about it. Is it something that you do want to do? Then get your ticket, and then you can work out all your details later. But I really want to encourage you to do that. And whether you do it on the online ticket to come virtual or come in person, either way, we would love to see you there. So, Lisa, shall we talk about our topic? What about patterns in your life? So when I was writing the book, the How to Step into Your God-Sized Dreams, the Fun, Fearless Female series, which the second of the series will be coming at some point. Then it'll really be a series. Oh, yeah, Kathy, you're right. There is a posting party. That's one of the announcements. So thank you. There is a posting party in the Fun, Fearless for everybody. Actually, it's open to anybody. And it is in my regular Zoom link. I do everything in my same Zoom room. So if you want to join us in that, Kathy, you can remind me, but I think it's 11 o'clock Pacific time. So it'll be 1 o'clock Central time. So that'll be great. If you want to grow your sphere of influence and make some new connections, that is a great way to do that. So yes. Okay. Thank you. So when I was writing the book, some of the things that came across, and this is a topic that was in there, about looking at the patterns of your life. And what I suggest you do, and right now, you can't do it like right now on the spot, but you can begin thinking about it, is look at your life. And, we always have the big ones of, got married, had kids, whatever. You've got those markers, right? Whatever those are for you, when you found Jesus, when you got saved, when you graduated from high school, all those markers. But in between those are a lot of other things that happen in your life. And just looking back, maybe it's a struggle you went through. Maybe there was a divorce. Maybe there was a financial issue. Maybe there was other really happy things that happened in there. And when you begin to just put them like on a timeline and look at that, what will happen is you'll begin to see that there are patterns in your life. And hopefully, depending on how long you've been a Christian and what your spiritual journey has been, you will see that too. What are the patterns in your spiritual life that have happened? Are there times when you were closer in your spiritual walk and you could see where God was walking along with you? Maybe there were times when you were going through those struggles, and yet now you can look back and see how faithful God was to you. And I'm always amazed when I do that. Well, it's not really amazed, but happily amazed. I don't know what the word is, to see his faithfulness, because it's not like I'm surprised, but it's like, boy, Lord, you really were there. When we almost went bankrupt, you were there. He comes through in these little miracles that happen along the way. And I think it gives you a great spirit of gratitude too. So what do you think about all that, Lisa?
Well, you know me, I love patterns and I love looking at patterns for learning. And there's many applications. So in our life, when we're looking for patterns, I like what you're talking about, watching and seeing where there's a trail of blessings because God walked by our side when we didn't know it. And I think that's a great gratitude exercise. And gratitude, I don't know about you, but for me, gratitude exercises are empowering to my own energy. And like I just sent gratitude journals to my granddaughters, and it was so cute because Ariel gets on the phone, Grandma, I'm so grateful for my gratitude journal. and,
Oh.
but the energy that comes like from her just telling me that, and from her writing down her things and looking at, like you said, I know she's only 6, but looking at the pattern of her life to see the things that God has blessed her with, and also to see what we can correct. You know, those are self audits, I call them. So,
Yeah, that's true. The when we do that, and Lisa and I were talking just a few minutes before we got started, that there's also those patterns that sometimes maybe you haven't even realized that it is a pattern. You know, there could be a financial pattern that you've done in your life, and one that I know many people do, and I will be the first to say I've been caught in that several times myself, is the whole financial pattern of, you know, I have the credit cards, and then I work my way to get rid of all the credit cards, and then a few years later, where am I? I got the credit cards going again because it's easy, or we hit a life juncture, a life crisis
yeah,
of some kind. And so then you've got to put things on credit cards. And truthfully, right now, in the world we're living in today, where money is tighter and it's costing more money for everything we do. My mother just told me last night that the gas there in Phoenix has gone back up to $5 a gallon. They had stayed lower for a while. Now we're not that in Vegas. We're about what, 369 or something. And then when I was looking through some pictures, when we drove to Kansas City last May, gas was the highest we saw was $5.99. So,
wow,
you know, we all get that. You know, when you're paying more for things, oftentimes you wind up doing those things that you don't want to do, like building up the credit cards. But
right,
there's probably other patterns that in your life that, you know, when you look at the decisions that you've made, do you kind of, if you keep, let's see, what is it? If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you've got. So if we keep
yeah,
making those same kind of decisions, then we're going to keep getting those same results. And that's where the learning, Lisa, that's where the learning comes from, right?
yeah,
If you
yeah,
see it, then you can make a change and make those different choices.
yes, yeah. Definitely. I mean, I do that in time management, even because you go back, you know, one of the things that I teach in time management is to audit your time for a day or a week. Just depends on how much stamina you have in wanting to audit. But, you know, write down how you're spending your time, and then, you know, you add it up. It's kind of interesting how it all comes out, and shocks you a little in terms of where you're putting your time and your efforts. So it's always good to look at those patterns and see if we can change it up. So,
And there's also, I'm sure in each of your lives, there's those good patterns where you see yourself consistently making the right choices, consistently doing the same, like living. We talked a few weeks ago, I think it was, about your core value, really establishing and know what is your core value that you're making your decisions around. And when you look back and you say, you know, I really have been living my core value. You know, even in the times when you think you might not have been, sometimes the self audit, I love that. I think that's a nice way to look at that. When we're doing that self audit, we realize that, yeah, you know, I really have. That's what's been important to me all my life. And probably you began that early in your life and you didn't even realize it because it was that something in you that is so important. It permeates through everything, permeates through time and all the other circumstances that you might be living in.
yeah. Well, and you know, when you look back in your life for patterns, one of the neat things is you can start to move forward with setting up new patterns. I don't know if you know this about the brain, but the way that the brain works is that if we keep doing something over and over, it becomes easier for us to make that decision, and that uses less energy, and it also makes it easier to make that decision. So developing those habits and the patterns that lead to those, it was interesting. There's a study that was done that talked about people who are trying to quit smoking cigarettes, that they found that if they were budgeting or making their bed in the morning, these are kind of weird correlations, that it was easier for them to stop smoking cigarettes. Because we start to set up a pattern of one behavior, it's easier to set up a pattern of another behavior. So looking at those patterns can be very effective in changing bad habits or implementing good habits. Simplest pattern changes.
That's interesting, huh? I had heard before about setting those patterns, and I guess that's why they say if you do something so many days in a row, and there's different things. I think the magic number is 40, mainly because 40 is used so much in the Bible, over and over and over again. 40 days. So I figure it's a pretty important number because of that. So I think if you really want to make permanent change, something that you want to, I think, it gets easier after probably the first 20 days or something. But by the time you're doing something consistently for 40 days, I think that's pretty powerful. And that habits really, like you said, are really patterns. We're setting up new patterns for ourselves. And I think too, would you say, Lisa, that if you have something you're wanting to change, like a habit that's not serving you, if you have a pattern that's not serving you, you really have to replace it, right, with something else, or
yes,
just trying to release it's not going to do it.
Yeah, you have to replace the body once it sets up some of the neural. This is in Lynn's area, but the once you set up those neural connections, then they're there almost on a permanent basis. Frankly, I wouldn't. I'll have to ask her, but I think that they're there on a permanent basis, and so you have to make the new wiring happen, and you make sure that you're overpowering that. So, like, for instance, if alcohol was a bad habit you had, that there's that saying, you're always going to be an alcoholic because the brain has some of that programming in it, but you can always reprogram the brain by replacing it and building new neural pathways. So,
and isn't it nice that we can change? I mean, what an amazing thing our brain is, that we can actually change the patterns. I think a lot of that too, when you think about being positive or negative, there are people who seem more negative by nature, but the truth is they can change that. Just because somebody's been negative for the first 30, 40 years of their life doesn't mean that they have to stay that way. I mean, you hear people say, well, I can't change that, I'm too old. Well, no, that's not true. You really can. If your patterns are always taking the negative side, and then with concerted effort, with consistent effort, you can make a change and think more positively.
Yeah. Well, when I was a youth, I had a teacher, and her name was Sister Hatch, and she basically told us her life story. And she was so negative that she had alienated pretty much everybody in her family, even her kids. And so as they were moving out and not talking with her, she asked one of her daughters why everybody's so down on her. And they said, because you're just so caustically negative about everything. And that really hit her. And so she said she, looked back on her life and started rewinding everything and seeing that pattern, and then decided to change. Well, you can't always change that type of thing overnight, but with God, she was able to change pretty drastically within a short period of time. And I'll tell you, in our class, I knew her from only what I knew. She was the most amazing, nice, gracious, humble, positive person without being so syrupy positive. She was just positive and complimentary and always looked on the lighter side and the bright side, bringing the spirit in. And I really admired her for what she accomplished and how she looked back at the patterns of her life and just completely changed everything.
Wow, that is a great story, because I think, and that's why I think it is important. Sometimes we don't want to take the time to just sit down and think. We're so into the busyness of stuff. Well, I'm going to get this done. I got to get that done. And, I got to be here. I got to be there. Or I got, 10 Zooms today, whatever it is. But make an appointment with yourself. We talked about that when we were talking about the whole, finding your 5 priorities and, your core value. But these are important life skills, you guys. It really is. And this is another one of those. Take a piece of paper. And again, I am so about the tactile, take the piece of paper, because again, it's what the brain does when your hand's going across the page. Y'all heard me say that 100 times. But when you're writing that out, and it doesn't have to look pretty, and it has to be beautiful, and it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Because who knows what that would be anyway. But just looking at, and as you think of things, you can always go back and go, oh, I remember when that happened. Because sometimes those ahas, like when you go back, and it's like, oh my goodness, you'll see those little things. And most of you who watch us are in business of some kind. You've either got something you're working on, you're an entrepreneur, whatever that is. You may find that along that journey, as you're seeing where God's brought you, I call it like a thread through time, where God's just been with you this whole time. Sometimes we didn't even realize it. And then it's like, oh, Lord, thank you. You were with me. I didn't know it, but you were there, and he always has been, and he is always walking with us. And again, the gratitude with that, but also being aware, because here's my thought on that. If God was with you during other times of crisis, if God was walking with you and carrying you during those 3 or 4 whatever times in the past, don't you imagine that means he's going to be with you now or in the future when you're going through things? Those are his patterns in your life, and you can trust that. That's where the trust and the faith comes from, because if you've seen him, and that's where it's good to be aware. If you're aware and Lord, man, you were so amazing, the miracles that you did in our life in these early years, then I know, Lord, you're going to be with us walking through the future. So when the world comes down and you're feeling fearful or you're feeling uncertain, first of all, God's got this. We know the end of the story, right, Lisa? But that trust and just knowing he is so faithful, what he's done for others, what he's done for you, he will do again. It's just faith and believing that.
Well, and it said, God says that we need to trust him like a child has to trust an adult. I mean, when I'm telling the kids, that's why we get that comment from them. They ask why, and we say sometimes because, and the Lord does the same thing to us, and we have to trust him that the path that he's got us on and how he's guiding us is a good one, and it's good for us. May not feel perfect at the time, but I've looked back on my own life and audited it and went, God, I don't want you to change a single thing, none of the bad, none of the good. I want you to, I'm appreciative of that journey that you gave me, because it has shaped me into the person I am. Without the bad, I wouldn't have the character. I wouldn't have the wisdom of some of the wisdom that I have. And so I looked back, and because there's a lot of times I'm like, oh, I wish this, and oh, I wish that. And I looked back on it one day, and this wasn't too long ago, and I just looked at it and said, no, don't. I'm so glad. Don't ever change. If we could rewind time, I don't want him to ever change it. So.
Because it is in those times that we do learn the lessons. If we're open to learning the lessons are there, and they do shape us, as you say. They make us who we are today, what we've gone through in the past. And one of the other things that I found is that, you know what, there are lessons that are there, and if we don't learn them the first time, they're going to keep happening until we learn the lesson. It's like, okay, Lord, haven't I gone down this path before? Yes, but you didn't learn the lesson. Well, okay. Now I just say, Lord, I don't want to learn any lessons over again. Help me to make the best choices now. New lessons, but I don't want to keep trying to learn the same one over and over again.
Good luck on that. But sometimes even though an instant comes that we've experienced before and we think, oh, we're learning something new, remember that you're coming into that situation now with a new perspective than you had the last time. So now you have a different opportunity to learn. So I figure that repetition has its benefits in terms of guidance.
Well, and that is true as well. Depends on what the lesson is, right? I don't want to be resisting his lessons. I don't want to resist him. It's like, let me just do it right the first time. So
don't kick against the pricks. Yeah.
Yeah. Good morning there, Karen and Kathy. We already said good morning, so we're always happy you're here. And Alicia, good morning, honey. Nice to see you here. And so as we look at those patterns, so I really, 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 really want to encourage you to take the time to do that, and I would love to hear from you. Lisa and I love to get your comments. We love to see, if you make any change, if something like is an aha moment for you. Maybe you've never done this self-audit. Maybe you've never done the kind of the timeline to look at what's happened in your life and what are the consistent things, what are the patterns, what is God's faithfulness, those various things, or who are those people in your life that have never let you down. There's so many things you're going to see if you just do it, and it makes you feel good, and if it affirms who you are and helps you look at the future with more positive expectancy. Because it's like, y'all know my favorite thing is that God always gives me a front row parking place. I don't know why he does. It's not like I deserve it over anybody else. My sister, she's so funny. She always will say things like, well, why should God give you all the front row parking place? And I said, because I believe he will. I mean, he always has. So I just continue to believe that he will. I don't know why, but I'm always grateful. And Alicia says every single time, 99% of the time, I do look at that with positive expectancy. Not that I deserve it or, like whatever, but it's just, that's a tiny little blessing that he gives to me. And I just am grateful for it. So what are yours? You may have something that is like that. What is your front row parking place? And here's my thought on that, because Bill just still shakes his head over it. He just can't get it. Is that if you never look, you'll never find. If you are looking for God's blessings, if you're looking for the front row parking spot, somebody just pulled out of it and it's yours. You know what I'm saying? So if you look for it, there's more chance you're going to find it than if you don't even look. So if you're looking for how God's working in your life, if you're looking for those positive things, then you're going to find them more often than not, because of the fact you're just looking for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there is a rule, and this is in business, that if you are expecting something, then you see it more than you would. In other words, the brain only works in a certain way to see things. And so you're aware of it. That's why you're seeing. Have you ever had somebody say, there's a blue van, and then the rest of the day you see 50 blue vans? And you're like, why did I see so many blue vans? So today, everybody, our audience is going to see blue vans everywhere. But that's because the brain is now cued in on that. So when you're looking at that whole picture, the blue van just goes boop and pops out at you. So if you're looking for those patterns in your life and you start, taking notice of them to see them, that's why you see the front row seats. That's why you see the front parking spots. And that's why you'll see God's hand in all your work, because now you're looking for, the blue van.
Mhm. Yeah, that is true. When you're getting ready to buy a certain car, then all of a sudden you see all those, you want to buy a SUV, you see them everywhere. And I didn't even know there were so many SUVs. They've always been there, but we never saw them. Exactly what you're saying. And I think that's it. And here's the thing, you guys, if you find yourself seeing the negative, okay, and again, I'm going to go back to just where we are in our society right now. There is a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of uncertainty and all that. But if you are focusing only on that, then that's what you're filling your heart and your life with right now. So really start making a new pattern if you're not already, and look for the blue van. But in this case, look for the good and the positive that's in the world around you, and you'll find it. And then you'll start saying, oh, there is good. People still are doing good things out there. There's positive change that's happening in the world. And your life, let's just face it, your life is just a lot better if you're looking for the positive, because the more negative just beats you down. But if you're looking for the positive and you're looking for ways to, maybe new ways to do things that might serve you better, those are important things to look for. So here we are at the top of the hour, as always. So it's amazing about that, how the time just keeps going. So I want to encourage you guys to look for those positive things. Any last comment on patterns or the conversation here, Lisa?
Yeah, one of the things that I was reading, when you prompted me about the topic we were going to talk about, I looked up, and it was interesting that the writer talked about patterns in our life being in our physical life, we're a child, and then we're, midlife, and then senior. Well, in our spiritual life, there's that too. We are spiritually children, and then kind of our midlife, and then, hopefully the wise senior of spirituality. And what he said was to look at the patterns of whether, like, in our faith was still in its childhood, or whether our, certain attributes of Christ, look at where they are and try to work on them in terms of maturing in that spiritual pattern towards the adulthood. In other words, spiritual maturity. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is. And
so I'm going to do that.
I think that is important. And I think that is going to come through reading scripture, through reading things, prayer time, of course, but your prayer life and your reading scripture, and even being involved in, it could be Bible studies, things that help us understand more. That's what helps us grow spiritually. And then, the closer that we come to Christ, the closer that we can be in walking with him, also helps in all those other things. Because as you grow spiritually, what I found was just a pattern that I saw when I did this a little while back, was that as I began to change and grow in one area of my life, it began to affect all the other areas of my life. It's like, wow, that's kind of cool. Because we're not totally separate. When you start growing spiritually, it affects how you look at the other parts of your life. When you start doing more things for your health and being more consistent in your eating patterns or your exercise, when you're making those kind of choices, it flows over into those other areas. So we kind of start getting better in every area when we start making those changes in one. So that's a nice little side benefit that comes from that.
Yes.
I'm sure the brain has something to do with that. For all that neuroscience stuff. So, well, thank you everybody for being here. We are so excited that you join us every week, because you could spend your time anywhere. If you're out here on the West Coast, you could have even slept in a little bit. So I know y'all in Kansas City, it's already so it's 10 o'clock there. Your day is already, you're halfway through your morning, and knowing Kathy, she's probably already had a couple of other Zooms along the way. But thank you for being here. We appreciate you very much. Please get your ticket. If you have any thought of coming, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Y'all know I am totally available. So if you have any questions about getting your ticket or what's involved, whatever, just reach out. We're happy to answer those questions for you. But we look forward to seeing you and being part of this great thing. You know, there's an amazing energy that happens when Christian women get together. Truthfully, I don't know that there's anything more powerful than that, because when Christian women get together, we are on a mission. We're there to uplift each other. And it's an amazing, powerful thing. So come join us. In the meantime, y'all have a great week. And remember that life is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. So choose wisely. Look at the patterns of your life. Choose the ones that you like. And if you need to change something, go ahead and change it. So, all right. Take care. Love you guys. See you next week. Bye.